So AI, as we know today, really entered the zeitgeist in early 2023. The theme going into 2025 seems to be a lot about agents.
I see the next wave of AI going beyond agents and into computer visioning, the robotic side of things, being able to automate not just software capacity areas, but also areas within our general day-to-day lives.
Right, Rohan, thank you so much for coming on. So you've newly been appointed as CEO of Perlon Labs. Huge congrats. And before that, your role was as COO at Spiny AI. So let's just start there. I understand you helped to take that business from $0 to $2 million in ARR. Huge props. Yeah, I'd love to learn a little bit more about your time there, how that went.
Yeah, absolutely. So I started off my role at Spiny as a chief of staff before quickly transitioning to the chief operating officer position. Within that role, obviously, as the title would entail, it was mainly looking after the operations, success, and everything else within the business as well. My main focus there, though, was the client relationships and the customer facing side of things. So working with our partners and our clients to make sure that we were building solutions that were right for them, onboarding them from a sales capacity as well, and essentially doing all of that product development outreach as well to best place us internally within those businesses. What I learned from AI implementation there is there's no one size fits all model, especially when it comes to enterprise businesses. So I've worked across multiple different enterprise businesses from the likes of Adidas and Amazon to large media businesses like the Times of the world, CBS's, etc. And what I found is that internally, everyone has their own tech stack, their own views on their own technology, and they really, more than anything else, love having the ownership of their own systems as well. And what that means from an AI implementation perspective is everyone comes at it from a different approach. There is no cookie cutter, one size fits all model where you could go into a business and say, there is this product that would work well for you because data flows work differently. There's multiple different sources for that. And there are multiple different immediate use cases that they can see if they've actually thought of those immediate use cases, which from time to time they don't.
Okay, so that's interesting. So different teams tend to use different tools. So as you come into these businesses, I can see that it gives them a chance to kind of reconcile with their different tools and the approach that they're taking. So
And what I found a lot of the time is when we'd speak to a business from, say, the Spanish perspective or even outside that, and to try to understand their problems for a single solution set that you're trying to sell into, they would really commonly say, this is great, it's definitely a problem solver. However, our most immediate need and the most urgent pains are within a different area of the business. Obviously, using sales methodologies like Medic and stuff, you try to properly quantify the value of what you're bringing in. But if the business is genuinely telling you that from the top down, they have a core objective elsewhere, which AI could solve, and there are values that we could really help with, that's a completely different thing and something to think about when helping businesses as well from an AI perspective and generally overall.
okay, fantastic. So is there anything that you'll miss being COO at Spiny as you go on to Perlon Labs?
Yeah, I'd say there's sort of two areas that I'd miss. The team obviously is part of the thing that I'd miss. There were a number of great people from incredible engineers to some incredible investors that we had on at Spiny, and it was really a joy to work with them. And then I'd also miss the sort of nature of the business that we were working in. The media and ad tech landscape is, for anyone who's familiar with it, fun area. I don't think anyone sets out in their career to say, I want to be a media or ad tech exec. So you get a wealth and breadth of people from different backgrounds, experiences, all within this pretty, really interesting and cutting edge area of the world that deals with stuff that we all care about because we consume content and media on a day-to-day basis. And it's really close to us. So I'd say those are the two areas that I'd miss.
So we mentioned earlier how you are coming on as CEO of Perlon Labs, where you'll offer tailored AI solutions to enterprise and mid-market companies. I'd love to hear, the founding of that company and what the backstory was.
Yeah, absolutely. So Perlon actually started out of those common frustrations that enterprises had. As I mentioned earlier, you'd go to a business and speak to them about a certain solution, and there's a different problem they're looking to solve internally. And rather than like taking on a SaaS solution, businesses do like to own their own products and technology stacks and use them internally. It works from a data privacy perspective, but also a unique value proposition to them. So Two of my colleagues, Brent and Sunjan, actually started Perlon AI a few years ago. And their focus there was to build a product that really worked for businesses. And what they found through those consultancy projects that they did in the early days was there was a gap in the market for a product of theirs that they've now built full time, which is an outbound sales solution using AI to help leverage those insights and let businesses grow their outbound funnel in a lot better way than it's happening right now and a lot less manual. But throughout that time of building that business, they also had all of these projects coming to them organically and through referrals that were really interesting projects like working with Dude, the big telecoms company in the Middle East, on helping their customer success team become more efficient from a computer visioning and a process perspective, to some of the large financial companies that we have on our website, such as HSBC and Deloitte, where we'd work with them to provide custom solutions for specific units of their business. Every project was very varied, very interesting, and something that really high class and quality engineers really like getting behind. So Luca and James, two of our CTO and our head of research, really got behind and within these businesses and solved those problems. They're incredible machine learning experts, diverse backgrounds and experiences. And we have a team of intelligent advisors and consultants that we bring on board, depending on a project as well, to really solve those issues for the customers. So we really grew Perlon Labs out of that, where there was that business frustration and use cases that clearly there was a product market fit for that we're now expanding out.
So Perlon has already had a chance to work with quite a few different big clients, including Deloitte, amongst others. How do you find technology adoption working at those enterprises? And how do you deal with the disparate tech stacks amongst the different teams?
We work with a number of sort of household name businesses, some of them that have been under NDA because of the proprietary nature of what we've built with them. But whenever we work with like one of the largest companies in the world, it's always the case that they've grown generally through acquisitions, obviously the organic growth themselves as well. And whenever they acquire a company, there's a lot of tech that comes in as well as part of that business. So what we often find is there are a lot of systems that are duplicated and redundant, and there's a lot of tech debt that happens within these organizations. It's a common situation where one person within one team would have set up a subscription for something, not realizing a different team in a different potential part of the world has a subscription for it as well.
Yeah.
So sometimes different companies have subscriptions to the same platform, and really coming in and understanding all of those nuances is tough from a sales perspective, which is why there's so much work that goes into being a specialized enterprise sales rep. But what we found is with all those tech nuances, there's a lot of opportunity for streamlining, for process automation and reduction. We worked with the National Bank of Poland, for example, who, being uniquely placed, need to do a lot of document translation into multiple different languages for all of their internal operations to work. So being part of that journey and understanding all of those different documents that they have, that they need to translate, the different translation layers that were involved as well, and automating that entire function was obviously a huge value unlock for them and allowed them to displace a number of different systems internally that, again, is a lot of tech debt that people don't really use that much.
So, in your years of experience in building these bespoke solutions, have you come to develop mental models of the best processes that this can be applied to? What are the conversations like when, at times you might have to sort of guide the clients towards specific directions on, what can and can't be, made better with AI and other technologies?
Yeah, there's been a lot of learnings over the time doing this where we work with someone and potentially there's two different sort of preconceptions that people have when they come to work with us. One is they don't have an understanding of AI that much. So they're coming to you thinking that there's an area of the business that there's a use case for automation. And potentially when we'd work with them, we'd identify that use case, but also unlock a lot of other opportunities within their value chain. So a lot of what we do early on is working with the business and really understanding the business at all levels. So we could come back to them with a report and a really detailed potential work summary of these are the areas that AI can unlock value for you specifically. And these are the sort of expected outcomes and the things that you can expect in terms of an ROI perspective from that. So that initial use case could potentially turn into multiple different use cases or a different use case entirely for the automation. And then the other way around, which we've seen quite a few times, is someone will come to us with an expectation of what AI can do. So there's, especially with a lot of the jargon that's going around these days, the expectation that you can automate a software engineer completely. So
Easy.
it sounds awesome. So they'd come up asking, well, can we not automate an entire product function within the business? And it's quickly realized that it's not actually there yet. The technology, you can't really do that. And playing and managing with those expectations is really crucial within that situation to better educate the people that we're working with and inform them about what's possible, but also, again, working with the business to see, well, if that area is not really a possible use case, there are a lot of manual processes and manual document automation that we can automate and unlock a lot of efficiency for in that same capacity. So balancing out those two is really what we spend a lot of time doing.
Now, when you go into these businesses and you sort of look at the problems at hand and what to engineer, how do you go about deciding, the KPIs and the success metrics to really focus on?
Obviously, because we work across different functions, the nature of the metrics and the things we'll work towards are highly tailored to that business function. But what we try to do is work on their KPIs. For example, with Do, we were helping on their customer success side of things and automate a lot of their customer success function ultimately. So our core KPI and metric that we were delivering ROI on was the percentage of queries that we'd help automate and the speed in which they were automated. So if you go through what we've done with them, we were able to help speed up and automate 63% of what was coming through within their pipeline, which is significant when you're talking about the hundreds of thousands of queries a month that they receive, if not millions. And then again, with a company like Identibase, which is a portfolio company of a large private equity company, we work with them across multiple different areas from invoice automation, which has a clear monetary ROI, the amount of money you're saving for them, to automation of alerts for when potential pets go missing, because that's their unique business proposition. So there are a number of different core business objectives that you can hit, and it's making sure that we really quantify those results, not only upfront, but relay them back afterwards as well.
So AI, as we know today, really entered the zeitgeist in early 2023 with the emergence of ChatGPT. We've seen it progressively grow more and more in its capabilities. So 2023 was about just everyone experimenting with generative AI, mainly large language models. 2024 was about connecting your data, so whether it's your personal or your company data. And the theme going into 2025 seems to be a lot about agents, a step above the knowledge base, which is actually giving access to your applications. So, through function calls and agents being able to take action. So, how are you viewing that landscape going into this year?
Great question. There's a sort of dystopian future that a lot of people like to advocate for, where the world's going to be agents talking to agents, and that's how a lot of work gets done. We have a slightly varied view on that, I'd say. So I think agents definitely serve specific use cases within specific functions. For example, being able to work within a tailored work stream, training an agent and helping them automate certain functions of, let's say, a sales process, a customer success process, there's clear value for, and you definitely see happening in the future. However, there are other areas of AI that are not yet explored that would definitely be adopted in 2025 in a lot more public ways. So AI, in my opinion, outdated, predated the 2023 wave of the LLMs to YouTube, for example, and algorithm search optimization. Google's been at the forefront of AI with their ad optimizations for many years, and they've really been an AI company in that respect as well. Same as Meta with your search feed, keeping you on page as much as possible within Instagram or Facebook. So those aren't really spoken about as much compared to the LLMs that we have today. And I see the next wave of AI going beyond agents and into computer visioning, the robotic side of things, being able to automate not just software capacity areas, but also areas within our general and day-to-day lives. Driverless cars is a big part of that. And there are other areas that are going to become more ubiquitous and part of society in the future.
Yeah, I do think all these coming changes make the future very exciting. And if we take a look back at the early uses of machine learning, you had fund managers in the 70s and 80s using machine learning to look for patterns and really trying to get an edge over the other managers. And its use cases have only grown since then. From keyword recognition and matching and information retrieval and to then, being able to give a whole book essentially to a language model. So it seems like it's just widening its use cases, and it's unlocking a lot of value.
Exactly. And there's definitely multimodal ways of unlocking more value in the future that are just being worked upon. So, video, for example, audio are still large data sets that are semi untouched by large language models and the work that goes in behind the scenes. So, there's a number of areas of data, including potentially synthetic data, that is obviously huge value unlocks in the future that will transform what we were talking about today.
I'm very curious to hear about how conversations around data privacy are had. What kind of concerns do you find are raised? Did you find any preference between proprietary models, like those of Anthropic and OpenAI, over open source models?
Great question. I feel as though that varies between organization. There are organizations which completely outright ban usage of LLMs internally. I think if you look to the large consulting companies who potentially have their business models being risked by using large language models, they're outright bans on using private LLMs like ChatGPT, Anthropics of the world, and favoring using their own internally trained LLM systems, which a few companies have started doing with that value proposition in mind for private equity companies, for large financial service companies. But there's also the use case of, as you mentioned, using open source internally. It's just understanding that engineering capacity themselves. But on the flip side of that, there are a number of companies that are more than willing to adopt enterprise grade private LLMs. All of the private LLMs that are at a large scale right now do have enterprise grade security included within them. For example, ChatGPT, since its inception for an enterprise module, has had a security involved where that data is not shared within the rest of their LLM ecosystem, and they do make safeguards against that. However, for businesses internally looking at where to start, it's just about trying to understand what's the easiest to adopt and potentially the safest way to adopt that. So making sure SOC 2, for example, is in place and up to date is really useful, but also looking internally and seeing what systems you can leverage on your own data and your own pipelines and keep within your own closed ecosystem is where we've seen a lot of companies verge to, and to the point where they're building their own LLMs based on Llama internally and using it to train their data and internal processes, knowing that there is safety, that it won't go elsewhere.
So for the business owner watching this video, they see the excitement, they see the results that have been delivered to other businesses, but to go about and change a business function is a comprehensive task. And it's not something that they can just throw at an intern. So I'm very curious to sort of hear what kind of advice would you give to business owners who want to go through that journey, who want to learn and make those changes.
Yeah, I've actually had a lot of these conversations over the past couple of months where I've been speaking to mid-size and mid-market business owners about their AI strategy, because a lot of them haven't adopted AI and I wondered where to start. I'd say the easiest place to start is get a enterprise grade subscription, or even use Copilot internally if you are a Microsoft fan, to one of the specific tools out there, and designate 3 to 5 people within your organization, including yourself as a CEO or a leader of the business, to start using AI from first principles and seeing how you can leverage that internally. The reason I say pick 3 to 5 people in your business as a start to do that is because ideally you'd want to pick people from different departments with different views and different core KPIs and objectives about what they're doing. And to leverage that, it's to use AI for everything within their organization, from common questions that they pop up with to actually large scope questions, and potentially using, say, Gemini's deep research, which has been a game changer for those that have been using it, to leverage those insights and the outputs that they can produce for each individual business unit. Ultimately, test AI to see what's possible, because there are areas where we know it will fail, but question where it fails, and then you can build your understanding around it and then report back on the use cases for the rest of the business.
One concern that I can see some clients bringing up would be, we've seen the rate of progress of these technologies. How do we safeguard the investment that we're going to make in this project, so that it doesn't become obsolete in the next few years?
A great question. And that's part of for us, our value proposition and differentiator, we're not career consultants or people that have had a bit of technical expertise and have gone to a house to advise on software development that tend to just recommend Azure and the people they're partnered with, for example. We are really people that have PhDs in machine learning, are at the cutting edge and continue to be at the cutting edge. And what we do when we implement something is put a future-proof plan in place or areas that business can look into in the future as the technology develops. And we do keep in contact with our customers and communicate with them as to changes that are potentially happening or have updated. So even from a year and a half ago, some of our early customers we've been in contact with recently about potential small case updates that we can do with them that aren't the same size as building an internal system, but help make things run more efficiently as well. There's always a use case, especially if you're a business and you've built something internally, to have a particular advocate within the business to be looking at the cutting edge, to be testing what's out there and understanding what's possible, to make sure that you're not sort of left behind using a legacy system, as the pace of change of these internal systems is extremely fast.
Well, look, Rohan, thank you so much for coming on. This has been great. Really appreciate your time.
Yeah, really appreciate it. It was great to chat, and hopefully it's of value to your listeners.